Welcome to Retro Sparkle Designs. Today's tutorial will be on the Mabel, Leo, and pants. For pattern pieces, you will need one back piece, and make sure you are marking all of the notches on there. We will just need to do the top and the middle two for the back. You need two fronts that are mirrored, and again, mark all of your notches. Again, just that top and that middle one for the Leo, and then the neck one. Two sleeves, two sleeve cuffs, one snap placket for the crotch, 4 snap plackets for inside the Leo, 1 neckline binding, 1 leg binding, and then some interfacing scraps. You'll need 4 pieces for each snap placket and then the front. And then you'll need your snap pieces. And then for the pants, you will need 1 front, 1 back, 1 waistband, and 2 cuffs. We will start out with the pants. Take the front and the back and lay them both right sides up, and then fold the front over onto the back, right sides together. Align the side seams and the inseam and pin in place, and then sew the side seams and the inseam. Then take the waistband and fold it in half, right sides together, pin along the edge and sew. For the cuffs, do the same thing. So fold in half, right sides together, pin along the longer edge, and then sew. Here we have the completed waistband and the completed cuffs. Take the cuffs and we're going to fold them in half, wrong sides together. And then I like to mark my halfway points with a clip. Go ahead and repeat this for the other cuff. And then for the waistband, we're going to do the same thing. So fold in half, wrong sides together, but we're going to match the quarter points. So mark those quarter points with a clip. Here we have the front and back pants sewn together. So go ahead and flip the pants right sides out. And then for the waistline, go ahead and mark those quarter points. Each side seam will be one of the quarter points, and then mark a quarter point on your front and back. And then I'm going to take the cuffs and I'm going to slide them over the bottom of the pants and align my quarter points with the side seam and the inseam and pin that in place. Repeat for your other cuff. And then for the waistband, again, slide over the top of the pants, align the raw edge and your quarter points, and then pin in place. And then go ahead and sew your waistband and your cuffs on. Here we have the completed pants. Go ahead and flip your waistband and your cuffs right sides out. And then these have the Grow With Me cuffs and the Grow With Me waistband, so you can fold them over. Now for the Leo, we have both fronts and then the back. We're going to take the front and lay them on top of the back, right sides together, aligning the shoulder seams. Pin those shoulders in place and then sew. Here we have the completed shoulder seams. Next, we will be adding the sleeves. So go ahead and take your sleeve. I like to find the center point of the top there and mark it with the pin, or just flip it over and align that center point with the shoulder seam. Go ahead and pin that in place and then finish aligning the sleeve in the armicide. Repeat for your other sleeve and then sew them both in place. Here we've got the sleeves added on. So now we can go ahead and set the bodice aside for right now, and we're going to prepare the snap plackets for the inside of the bodice. So take your snap plackets, place 2 of them right sides together, and then we're going to sew the 3 edges. Do that for both of the snap plackets. Now with your snap plackets sewn together, go ahead and take a piece of interfacing and we're going to iron it on to each snap placket. And then here is the ironed on interfacing. So go ahead and flip the snap plackets right sides out. You can go ahead and use a paintbrush or a little tube turner or whatever helps you to get these flipped the right way, and then go ahead and push those corners out. Next, we need to add the snap plackets to the bodice, and then we will be sewing the side seams. So take your snap plackets and we're going to align them with the notches, and these are going to be on the same side that your inside front is going to finish on, if that makes sense. So when you are folding your bodice together, the side that will have the binding on it is where your snap plackets are going to go on. So you want that inside front to kind of open on the same side of your snap plackets. I actually did not put my snap plackets on the correct side here, so I did have to go back and swap them. And then go ahead and pin your side seams and those raw edges of your sleeves. Do that on each side. And then go ahead and sew, making sure again that you're double checking that your snap plackets are in the correct spot and that you are getting the snap plackets when you are sewing. And again, I did put my snap plackets on the wrong side. So as you can see, the blue is going to be my inside front, and I put the snap plackets on that same side seam that I'm going to be sewing closed. I actually want those snap plackets on the opposite side, so they are on the same side as the side seam for the printed front, the rib knit here. So again, just double check that. Go ahead and pin your Leo closed first, and then kind of flip it right sides out to see that the snap plackets make sense where they're at. Here we have the completed side seams, and then your snap plackets should be on there as well. Now go ahead and flip the Leo right sides out, mostly just turn your sleeves out the correct way. And then we are going to add the interfacing to the front. So we're going to take our two other scraps of interfacing and we're going to place them on the notches that we marked on the front bodice. So these should also be on the opposite side of where your snap plackets are. Go ahead and iron those on. And here we have the interfacing ironed on, and we will be moving on to the neck binding. So mark the center point of your neck binding, and then find the center point of your back bodice and mark with a pin. Then I'm going to take my binding and I'm going to place it right sides to wrong sides and pin in place. So the right side of my binding will go to the wrong side of my Leo. And then I'm going to slowly just continue to pin along those raw edges there and align the binding. You may have a little extra binding on those edges, so kind of keep that in mind as you're pinning. I did just trim my excess off. And then go ahead and sew your binding in place. Here we have the binding sewn on, and now we will just need to enclose that seam and the raw edge of the binding. To do so, we are going to take the seam we just created and we're going to push it towards the raw edge of the binding. Take your binding and we're going to fold it about a third down and then fold it over again. So the seam and the raw edge will be folded into the center of the binding. So again, take your seam line, we're going to push it towards the raw edge of the binding, fold the raw edge of the binding in half towards the seam line, and then fold the binding in half again. This will again make sure that your raw edge and your seam are enclosed within the binding. Go ahead and do this for the whole of the binding, and then we are going to top stitch the binding down. Here we have the completed neckline binding. Now we are going to align the fronts how they're supposed to be. So take your inside front and lay it right sides up, so wrong sides together with your back. And we're going to align that bottom edge of the binding with the hip and pin that in place. And then take the opposite front and fold it over the top of that. And again, take that bottom raw edge of your binding and pin that in place on the opposite hip. You should have both your fronts on top of each other. Now with the front sides pinned in place, you're going to have two front crotch areas that are overlapping. Go ahead and pin those leg parts together. You can also baste them in place as well. I'm just going to pin them for now. And then we are going to take the crotch snap placket and we're going to place it right sides together with the front crotch and pin in place, and then go ahead and sew. Here we have the crotch snap placket sewn in place, and next we are going to prep our leg binding. So go ahead and find the center of the leg binding and mark with a pin, and then find the center of the back and mark with a pin as well. And then align your center points together. You're going to take your binding and place it right sides to wrong sides of your Leo back and start pinning in place. Start from that center point and kind of pin along all the way down the edge of the snap placket. Make sure you're getting all the way down your snap placket just to the point, but not on the curve. And then go ahead and sew the binding in place. Here we have the binding sewn in place. Now we are going to go ahead and fold over the binding again. So take that seam and you're going to fold it towards the raw edge of your binding, and then fold the raw edge of your binding in half towards that seam, and then fold the binding again, and this will enclose the seam and the raw edge of the binding within the binding. A little close up here, again, push that seam towards the raw edge, fold the raw edge in half towards the seam, and then fold the binding in half again, encasing the raw edge and the seam in the binding. And then go ahead and finish doing that and then top stitch your binding. Here we have the completed leg binding. Next, we are going to place 2 snaps on the binding above that snap placket. It'll be above because once we fold that snap placket in half and top stitch, it'll enclose the back of those snaps so they're a little more hidden. Now that we have the snaps in place, we're going to fold the snap placket over. So right where you added your snap placket to the front crotch, that's where we're going to fold. You should have about an inch of space or so there. Fold that over, and then you're going to top stitch that raw edge down. And again, this will make sure that the backs of your snaps there are covered. And then go ahead and prep your cuffs at this point as well. So take your cuffs, fold them in half, right sides together, pin along the long edge and sew. And then with the completed cuffs, we're going to fold them in half, wrong sides together, and then find the halfway marks and mark them with a pin. Here we have the snap placket top stitch down, and now we will add the cuffs to the sleeves. So first, mark the halfway points on your sleeves, and then we're going to take our cuffs and place them over the bottom edge of the sleeve, aligning those raw edges and those halfway marks, and then pin in place. Go ahead and repeat this for the other cuff and then sew. Now we can add all of the snaps as well. So we will need to place one snap on each of the notches that we made along the binding on the front. And then you will need to add a snap in the corresponding place on the front where the interfacing was placed. And then for the inside front bodice, go ahead and place your 2 snaps on your binding as well, and then onto the snap plackets. And then you will go ahead and add 1 snap on each neck binding to close that top there. So all of your notches should be marked, and then just try to match up your snaps as best as you can. And here we have the completed cuffs. Go ahead and flip those down. These are a little bit longer sleeves. So again, we can kind of do the grow with me cuffs here as well. And then here are the corresponding snaps. So then everything should line up with each snap having a male and a female. And you have finished your crotch snaps here as well. And then you are all set.